and Christina
Hi.
with Empowered Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about stress and the hormones cortisol and cortisone and how that can impact your body and your health.
Right. I mean, stress actually is a leading cause of aginess. Sometimes we experience stress and we don't even realize that we're stressed. So we have a lot to discover and talk about.
I think that also we experience this stress, and a lot of times you're so so I cannot do I can't do something about it, so I just put it aside, just pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that we can do to reduce that as a problem.
Yeah. I definitely always feel that anytime you have a stressor, it's best to take it, face it head on. Because I have found through personal experience, when you tend to bury it or you just push it aside, it kind of starts to fester up after a while, and then you just explode. I don't know if that's how you...
Well, when you put it aside, you don't deal with the situation. Nothing really works when you put it aside and you're in denial.
Yeah.
Tell me something that you denied and had created workability. I can't think of it, right?
Yeah.
So let me create something that, as I was studying and reading for this topic, so the body ability to respond to physiological stress, like you go fight and flight, your adrenal glands, they're located in your kidneys, release cortisol. Actually release cortisone, which is a precursor of cortisol. Those are natural hormone that your body produces to overcome the stress, right? Whatever physiological response you need for that time. You need to fight. You need to metabolism needs to improve. You have to be alert, right? That's why stress makes you not want to sleep, like have a hard time sleeping, because it didn't regulate that sleeping cycle, right? So anytime the body responds to that, which is good. Like if you're in danger situation, you don't want your body like, oh, I'm going to sleep now, it's okay. No, you want your body to release the hormone, have you alert, and go fight for it. The problem is that we are living in an era where there's so much for us to keep fight and flying. No, come on, girl.
Fight and flight. Yeah.
Fight and flight.
It's fight or flight.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying
But
to say.
we're either like fight or fighting day in and day out. And even like the brain doesn't recognize when it's just a mental problem. They think is a real problem. So if you worry about something that is not happening but is in your mind, your body's creating a response from that for that worry, pretending is a real physical problem, but it's not a physical problem. It's just a mental problem, right?
Yeah.
You understanding what I'm saying?
Well, that's one type. There's mental stress. There is also physical stress, but
Yeah.
we're focused on mental stress, with what you're talking about.
Yeah, even the physical stress will create it like physical response. What I want to say is that mental stress will create a physical response for the mental stress.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I want to hear you out. I want you to continue down this path, and then
okay. So then, so the body will get, like, let's say you stay in the constant stress mode.
Okay.
You worry too much. You're like surviving life. You're not really creating life. You're surviving life. Then your adrenal glands are producing hormones. And then there's another important thing that the cortisol and cortisone levels does is to regulate inflammation and blood circulation, blood pressure. So if you have the cortisol level out of balance, you will have a high tendency for inflammatory reactions. You will have a high tendency to blood pressure.
Okay.
So it's like going back and forth. Then you don't have enough hormonal naturally produced by the body. Then you start creating situations where you need to have medical synthetic cortisol and cortisone.
Okay. Well, let's break it down for our listeners. in regards to stress, because I know highly functional individuals who thrive off high stress levels. That's when they perform and they do their best work. And I asked them about this, you just, sometimes it's not interpreted as stress, just high energy, but it ends up stressing me out because of that high level of energy, and then just trying to feel like I'm on eggshells. And that is how they function. That's their way of life. And so what you're saying is that the question is really, can a person manage that stress to where it doesn't produce high cortisone, which is the precursor to cortisol? Can that be something that can happen? Can a person manage that?
So the way I see it is like the balance is good. Because you want to have your body ability to produce the hormone and the body ability to calm down and rest and restore. You want to have your kidneys and your glands, the adrenal glands, to restore. What I would question is that those people in high productive level, because you're alert, you have focus, you have like the blood work, mental alertness, because the cortisol is higher, right? It's giving you that. But are those people who are the ones who, like, when they have a problem, they shut down? They have like a disease that kicks in and they're like out for a week?
Yeah, that's a really important fact, because it's not always the case, but it is an abundance of individuals who just kind of function at such high levels. Go. And then they're the ones that disappear for like a week at a time. They're just in hiatus somewhere. So our focus is stress. So we really want to kind of break it down and talk about stressors in our life, how we can manage those stressors in our life. Stress, we know, can age us. That was the topic, that we wanted to cover, because there are many case studies that are actually performed like on mice that show the scientists kind of puts these mice in high stressful situations, and they're seeing that it's actually aging them while they're undergoing these stressors. But the moment that they remove the stressors, the mice, it's like a temporary aging process that happens. Remove the stressors, then the body starts to slow down again, meaning to where it should be functioning at a healthy, balanced pace. So that's something good to know. So I think the hardest challenge is, how do you identify the stressors in your life and then what to do about them? You said when we were filming our short, you said, I want to quote you right, that I forgot what you said about stress, about burying it, or just
like pretending that it's not there.
Yeah.
And probably those people who are high functioning under stress, they're so used to use the stress in their favor, which is good. But then, are they balancing? That's what I was saying. Like when you're in denial, when you're in denial of the impact of those stress, then you have higher functioning people with like high allergic reactions, or like inflammation in the knees, or inflammation in the shoulders.
Oh yes.
Like high inflammatory response, people who cannot lose weight. And so there's all those, because the cortisol level impacts the weight loss. I mean, it impacts everything in the body.
Yeah, it does. If I were to be honest, I would say that you and I, based on what I know about you, and obviously what I know about myself, that running our own businesses, single women, have adult children, but they're still very much part of our lives, to where we're in, kind of co-managing many of them, that sometimes I would think that you and I experience high levels of stress, because we're moving so quickly and at a fast pace, and we always have to be on. But I think I don't identify times when I'm moving very fast, there's a lot on my plate. I become stressed when I have nothing on my plate. Does that make sense? And it's more like something, I should be busy right now. I shouldn't be just sitting here. What am I not doing? Why am I not productive?
Is the problem?
That becomes a stressor for me.
Yeah, but then is the problem not having something to do, or your thoughts about not having something to do? That you should be other way than the way it is.
That's a very thought-provoking question. I want you to repeat it because I want our listeners to hear it. See if you guys identified with this. Say it again.
So you said that
See if she remembers.
that's a problem too. No, here's the thing.
Yeah.
So were you feeling stressed because you didn't have anything to do, or you were feeling stressed because of the idea you should have something to do and you are not with what's so?
Okay. So here's the answer to that. Because I'm used to always functioning at a faster pace, because I am always doing something like multitasking, or I don't have time to visit the stressors in my life. I think it's when I finally rest that I have time to think about things. And then I start revisiting things in my life that are not completed or that I haven't started yet. And then I start to stress over that. Or it could be finances, it could be any. So I think that's what it is for me. How about for you guys? Is it something like that?
Yeah.
Like, it's when we have time to finally relax, we start thinking about the things that actually cause stress.
Okay, well, that's a way of looking, right?
For me, that's for me. Yeah.
I like yesterday. I had time off, and I went to bed at 7, but I didn't fall asleep until 11. And then I was looking like, what happened? Because I have fun doing things. I'm busy, but I'm always making time for the things. So it's not a problem to be busy for me. The problem is when I'm not having fun with the things that I'm busy with. Right?
That's very true.
And then yesterday, I went to bed earlier because I was tired and I didn't have something got canceled, and I was like, and then I start looking like, why am I feeling down?
Yeah.
It's not because I have the time off, because I'm enjoying like when I have like the relaxing time.
Yeah.
So there was something else that happened in the morning that it stressed me out about my business, and I wasn't able to resolve right away, and it didn't come right away as a problem. It came as a frustration that I kind of put it aside, and in the evening I was like, oh, that was the stressor, and how am I going to deal with that? So then that was the stressor. Like something happened, I'm not aware that that's a stressor, but it takes me, that deregulates my hormonal level, and then get me out of like my peace.
In a future podcast or episode rather, we're going to cover how to change the framework of your thoughts. And that's something when you are put in a situation where it becomes a stressful situation, how to manifest, the issue or the problem in your brain to where it doesn't present itself as a problem. It presents itself as a challenge rather. So that's stress is gonna come in all different ways, right? There's people in my life, well, I'm not gonna say in my personal life, but people that when our paths cross, they cause me stress. And I think it's because of the negativity aura that they have. They're just so negative. And I adopted this like life philosophy a couple years ago. In fact, I was on the phone earlier with my brother, and I told him, listen, we're at the age now, just don't waste time or energy on people who are just stressors in your life, because they drag you down with it. Yes, it's great to be, sometimes we're putting people's lives to help them evolve and be, and just be there for them.
Be compassionate.
Yes, but when they become stressed and you start getting dragged into that, you have to learn to walk away, because that just it's not healthy for us mentally or physically. So one way is take a look at your circle. And I think sometimes traveling in big circles is more stress. I keep my circle very small. Yeah.
I have a different view of this.
Okay. I got the little wink. That was kind of let me know. Okay. Well,
sure. Remember about like shifting the frame of reference.
Yeah.
Which I know people would do what people would do in the circumstances is and I love everyone and I don't want everyone around.
I love everyone and I don't want everyone around. What does that mean?
I mean, like, I can have compassion and love for people, but not everyone that I want around me. But I can have love and
Sure.
and right. But here's what, like, those people around me that bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
I reverse and look, and that's the suggestion that I have. What is the failed expectations that I have about this person that I have not been able to be assertive or manage with like power? And I'm not saying power to diminish or power to like power. It means like I can center myself, I can be at peace, I can acknowledge there's another human being there and not let that it's my expectations that are frustrating me. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, but I have expectations of them not doing something or not communicating to them what I like, what I'm expecting of them, things like that.
Well, then I would classify that person as more of an acquaintance, possibly an employee.
No, I would do that with
But-
anybody.
But yes, but not when you have a close friend or a close family member that's in your life and the phone rings and it's them and you know that stress. You start to feel it. You start to feel it in your shoulders because you know what the end result is going to be. And so either you combat that head on, right? You were the one you said you can't bury it.
Yes, that's
So
true.
you have to address it, and if you're not successful addressing it directly with that individual, then you have to take charge and set new boundaries. It's so important to new boundaries, and saying I cannot be that type of friend to them any longer,
Yeah.
or have that kind of family relationship with them any longer. Sometimes individuals even have the power to make you be less than. You know what I'm saying? They bring out a bad side of you. And that causes stress. And that stress, I see it right here. I see it right here.
And I get what you're saying. Like,
yeah,
I relate to like the phone is ringing.
yeah.
And then, but see, when the phone is ringing, I can go like over there and I can go over here. What's the choice I have to manage the stress over here, right?
Right.
Okay. I wanted to go back a little bit of the aging, because
Yes.
when you're sharing that about that study, I wonder when they took the stressor out that the mice start the anti-aging come back, like they reverse the anti-aging. Was that a long time? Do you remember if it was
Well,
like?
it's right here. You can just view. So it's the stress can temporarily change the biological age. Okay. So and then the process reverses once the stressor is resolved or removed.
Okay, that's okay. But I would wonder if you stay with that too long.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think, like, when you're stay in the stress response for a long time,
Yes.
which a lot of people relate to a trauma response, that you get stuck in there
Yes.
for childhood, would it still make a difference when that is taken out?
Well, according to research, when the stressor is removed, then the biological age returns back to normal. So they encounter this during like COVID-19, the pandemic. There was huge. I mean, everybody's stress levels. In fact, a lot of research showed that cortisol levels were high. Many people reported cortisol levels, huge increase in cortisol levels. But even pregnancy, they have that stressor during pregnancy, and so there's a lot of research out there showing how it is a temporary aging, but I think over time you become preconditioned to these situations, and if you learn to just live with them, I think the aging process is, because anytime you age, your muscle stress or everything, the inflammation is increased. It's going to have an impact on the way that you look as well, or the color of your hair, right?
Yeah.
So there is going to be a kind of a result from having to experience and going through that all the time. That's why it's so important to be able to like.
Yeah, I think that there's a part of the managing the stress that people go into, like I cannot do something about it, or like the resignation of it, that leave them there, and the aging keep going.
Yeah.
And I see people come into the office like, you know, there's a life change or something. They went through divorce, or they had like, this is enough. I'm changing my job. I'm like completing my marriage. Like I'm like doing something about it. And there's like a renew. It's like, you know, people, I am someone who started taking care of myself a lot more after I divorced than I was like, you know, in the marriage.
Yeah.
So all right, so let's talk about the like all the things to balance, because like we said before, you do want a healthy response to stress, because you don't want to sleep when there's a danger coming.
That's another thing, people cope with stress by just kind of
Going to
checking
sleep.
out, just checking out. And so let's talk about some things that we can do. First, I think it's important to identify the stressors in your life. Now, we are all going to experience stress on a daily basis. Work, home life, financial, whatever the case may be. And you can't do anything about those things, right? Because they're part of your livelihood, and it's something that you know, that's what your life is. That's the chapter. Talking about changing the framework. I like to look at anything that's in my life that I would consider a stressor, and I don't do that. I mean, maybe that might be a tip, is don't look at something as a stressor, look at something as an opportunity. An opportunity to make change, an opportunity to learn, right, to educate, and address it. I agree with you. Burying something or putting it off to the next day doesn't help. That procrastination of like, let's just not deal with it today, it's just going to manifest into something larger, because then more stressors are going to come, and that becomes a habit that's very hard to break. So I always like to take the bull by the horn. So identifying the stressor, and then breaking it down, right? Like, let's just get an example. And you provide an example, and then let's kind of dissect that.
Like, okay, let me share something personal. Like a few months ago, I was in Brazil, and something happened, and I realized I was 3 days under stress. I'm there, Easter weekend, I'm in vacation, I'm at my parents' house, like relaxing, and I'm stressed. And I was like, what happened? So I received a letter or email that threw me off for 3 days. And it triggered a fear. It triggered me some kind of fear. That fear, you start creating a stress-related response. I couldn't sleep well. I was like impatient, anxious, and
so it was anxiety.
Yeah, the anxiety came, and then I started like, okay, then I'm gonna do something about it. I start working on whatever happened to dismantle that, and I actually did some. I do a lot of landmark self-development programs. So I did some work with that, and I also did a theta healing session to like reset the fear, reset that in my conscious brain. So that was one way of coping with that, was to realize what is the frame and what is the stressor, and how can I re-signify. I don't know if that's the right word, like created a new meaning for it.
Right, you're going to redefine it.
Redefine it, that's perfect, yeah.
That's exactly, that is changing the framework of your thoughts. So let's even break what you just said down even further. So if stress in your life that you're experiencing right now happens to be the loss of a job, okay? And you've kind of gone over your finances, and you're kind of going, wow, am I going to make, my mortgage payment this month, and I've got my car, so rather than just sit still and let these thoughts go through your mind, take action. And the first thing I would recommend is write it all down. Create a budget. Look at your finances. Go online, look at what you have, look at how many months, so that it's very well defined for you, right? You know how long you have until you have to have another job, or you have to take out whatever the case, however you can access money. And then you start to devote time, map it out. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to, go online and start looking for employment. I'm going to network. I'm going to utilize these individuals over here, see if they know of anybody. Put an action plan together. So that's kind of one way to deal with that type of stress, is that just sitting there thinking about it and allowing it to fester inside of you is not going to move you forward. You have to be active at this time,
I like to emphasize something you said, like to stop and writing.
Yeah.
So when you take a deep breath and you like bring yourself back to thinking, because in the moment of stress you only can react. Have you heard about it? Whatever you react persist, and whatever you welcome disappear, accepted disappear. Whatever you resist persist. So if you resist, you lost a job. You resist the loss of a job, it persists. So you're like in the trauma response and you're in the stress response, right? In that moment, your brain doesn't work well. So you want to kind of take that deep breath, like get yourself back into the peace and resolve from there, which is like budgeting or like, dealing with, you got to deal with what's so.
Right.
But put yourself in that moment where your brain can function, your body can, like, you bring it, like you said, and then do those things that you said.
Yeah, exactly. So the deep breathing is actually one way that we can cleanse the body by inhaling and exhaling and bringing in oxygen levels, increasing our oxygen levels in our cells helps with clarity and focus. So remember that. Take a pause, very short pause, not a long pause, not days or weeks, and just do some deep meditation, deep cleansing. I use prayer as a form of meditation, and this is a physical, this is going to be physically benefiting to you, is just bringing in more oxygen. And you'll be amazed at how things automatically just don't look so bad, right? So one way, deep breaths, and then another way is, stretching, right? Listening to soothing music, calming your atmosphere, kind of creating that atmosphere that you find very tranquil. I like to get in Epsom salt baths. Anytime I have a stressful day at work, I get it with lavender, Epsom salt baths. I calm myself down, because for some reason, when you're at a high energy level, things impact you differently than when you have a lower energy. I remember I used to say to these friends of mine, God, I wish I could respond the way that you do to certain situations.
Like, go for it?
No, they're just so, it's okay.
Oh, the peace and love.
Not a problem. And I'm like, damn it, let's deal with this. Let's deal with this now, And so, and I think that's also because they know how to physically calm themselves down.
I had a person once call me that I have color, what is it? I have like pink color glasses. What is that expression?
Oh, it's called rose-colored glasses.
Yes, that's how I am, and I'm pretty good about doing that. But I am the one who hides. Like but I want to say something else that came up and I forgot.
My priest, Father Manuel, he used to say, you look at the world through rose-colored glasses.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, thank you. He's like, no, that's not always a good thing, because you need to discern. You need to be aware and cognitive of, your surroundings all the time, and not always extending everybody the benefit of the doubt.
So you're mentioning that to like the bubble bath.
The bubble bath.
Yeah. So exercising, and I thought about like bubble bath. It's also Epsom salt. It helps to manage the energy of your cells, right? Because when you're in a high intensity stress, your cells are polarity negative, so or too much positive. When you go into the salt, it neutralizes. And I used to love to go into the ocean. But here in California, the ocean's so cold, so I don't do that.
That's true.
But it's good for inflammation.
Yeah.
If you go, let me say another one.
Yeah.
I used to tell clients this: when you go, like people who are post surgery, for example, they just like, oh, like a few days and I'll be done. No, you're not done after a few days. You need to have like calming. Why? Because if you go, your body would use the resources for go. And during healing time, you need extra sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So sleeping is very important to balance that hormonal, give your body time to replenish the adrenal glands. So anything to balance. So thinking that you're not gonna have a stress, it's a myth. But managing and finding ways to implement in your lives, that would be like very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said earlier, we cannot escape stressors in our life. It's part of life, and everybody responds to stress differently, and what works for one may not work for you. It's not a one size fits all. You have to first identify things that bring you tranquility. What are the things that make you feel secure, right? Make you feel calm and at peace. And then those are your go-tos.
Yes.
And I don't care if you have to put them on your little list in your phone. Just remember those go-tos. It's amazing how quickly we forget little things, little tips. It takes somebody to remind us of it. Oh yeah.
I want to emphasize the word you said about secure, safety. Because for women it's so important that we feel safe. So activities that will bring us to safety.
Oh yeah. And so having that list of go-tos, and then knowing and practicing putting them in, implementing them at the time when you're undergoing stress. So again, for the stressors that you cannot remove, you're going to have your go-tos that will combat the stress. When you move on to identifying the stressors that you can remove. For me, and think about this because you're up next. For me, a stressor that I can identify right now that I need to remove or that I should remove, but I think it's that well shoot, I don't want to say what it is, but it is an individual. I'm just going to say that it is an individual that I'm learning how to deal with. I'm just going to say it's a he, she, maybe. Their personality is like none I've ever experienced before. And I have just learned to try to diffuse any situation, and even just saying 3 words leads to, a 2-hour conversation, and it's where I'm being lectured or, So I know I need to remove that stressor, but that stressor is a fixture in my life right now, and so it's something that I'm just learning how to speak their language, learning how to, put out a fire or not add fuel to the fire, and then just knowing, setting my boundaries, and then just knowing when to walk away. And I think that's so important. A lot of us don't know when to walk away. We just keep going back and forth, and then the stress becomes more and more. So that's one.
Well, I actually have been doing work this past week to recognize what takes me out of performance. So I keep looking because my schedule is really fluctuating. I have clients cancel, and then I have something else I have to do. Like I have things that I have scheduled, and then there are things that I need to get done. So when my schedule fluctuates, when things that is stressed, like it's an unconscious problem, but it stress me happens, I have been noticing that I don't do anything. I get stopped for like an hour or two. Like I have all these things that I was going to do, and I like suddenly stop. So I have been recognizing that. What was the trigger? Because it's not everything that triggers.
Yeah.
So what was behind the trigger?
Yeah.
What was the communication that triggered me? So that's one thing I have been looking. What is that it's has been related to fear, has been related to fear of something's gonna go wrong, something's gonna be like I'm in danger.
Okay, I wanna clarify this for our listeners because so we can break it down a little bit more because somebody out there might be able to identify with exactly what you're saying. So you're moving along your day, you're at work, you said some clients may be canceled, you had a lot of things on your day agenda, right, that you were going to accomplish, but something just didn't go according to plan, and then all of a sudden the way you respond to that is you just
shut down.
Okay, so now how are you, and you're saying you're identifying that that's a mechanism, that's part of how you respond. Okay,
first I start realizing that's what I do. My body reacts that way. I shut down, right? Then now the work has been, what was it? Because I don't shut down all the time. What was it specific about that, the communication? And what I have been seeing is related to fear that I'm gonna somehow, actually I have been doing this for a while. This week has been specific about not going, like I had expectations and I made deals with the person, I made agreements with the person, and they come to me and they don't deliver what I expect them to deliver.
Welcome to life. That happens all the time.
And then how can I bring responsibility there? How can I bring power in there and say, because what is happening is that I shut down and I don't go back and say, hey, you said you're gonna do that. I don't fight for it.
What does shutdown look like? Does shutdown look like I'm just gonna
step down? I step down, like I go into waiting mode.
Yeah, but does shutdown, because let's just call it what it is. It's an individual that you were in negotiations with.
Vendor. Let's put it this example.
Vendor. And then, does the shutdown look like you just walk away from the business with them, or shutdown just means you're just not going to address it right now?
I don't address.
Okay, so you're not addressing it right now.
I shut down, like I go into, and then the stress is staying there, and I get paralyzed, like I don't know what to do.
And does anger set in as a result of that?
Oh.
Yeah, because you start manifesting all these other emotions because you're not dealing with it. And so that's another thing is that...
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Is the anger hide behind the sadness?
Anger hides beside, that's...
Because I don't like anger and I don't want to express anger. So then I shut down because I don't want to spread, So that's stay.
Oh, we can start producing from not dealing with the stressor, whatever that stress is, we can start manifesting these thoughts that are non-existent. We can start, projecting anger and displaced anger and making assumptions. It can lead to a whole array of emotions that can cause more stress.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said you've been revisiting that, or you've been identifying, you've taken responsibility for that. So how would you recommend to somebody when something doesn't go as according to your plan, and...
Well, what I have been doing is to look what was out of my plan, like, and I'm recognizing is, like, I just got this right now, is the fact that I don't want to experience the anger.
Yeah.
So, because the anger I don't want to be rude, but then how do I stand my ground? How do I go and say, no, you have an agreement to do this and you didn't do what you said you're going to do before it gets to anger. So, but it really helps me going back into, I do that. I stop and think, I stop and like take a deep breath. Like, what can I do now?
Yeah.
I do get a lot of massages. Like massages is my place to go to.
Yeah.
I also recently have been doing a lot of spirituality work, connecting with God as source.
Of course, he's the greatest. He's my go-to.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing too, on the fact that when you I think I always recommend pausing before responding to an individual in the case of a stressful situation, especially when things don't go according to your plan, because that's going to happen a lot. If you respond right away, you're most likely going to respond emotionally rather than intellectually. You need to like take a breath, kind of break it all down in your mind, and then articulate your, displeasement or whatever it is that you need to convey to that individual in a professional, courteous way. I have respect for people that do that, because I make mistakes all the time, and they're not like charging at me. They're just letting me know I'm disappointed, or this is not what that we had discussed, and I have great respect for them. But yeah, spiritual.
And I like to do that.
Yeah.
When I'm at peace, like when I bring myself into peace, I can totally do that. The problem is the gap between that happens to the time I can be at peace, right?
Yeah. Well, you just have to say to yourself, I'm not going to be that person anymore. I'm not going to be the person flying by the seat of my pants, responding to every stressor in my life with, barking or negativity. I'm going to take a moment to compose myself, think it through, because what we consider stress is so minute to what many people all around the world are experiencing stress. Like, we should be thankful that, we're dealing with
the kind of stress that we have is like,
And there's even one thing, like, some people, we all respond differently to stress. Some people, if they get lost or they miss their exit on the freeway, oh my God, it sets them off. And I get these texts, I'm late and maybe I shouldn't just come. Like, they are just flooding me with texts. Like, I know it's 15 minutes, I don't know what your policy is, and I don't have time for this. And they're really, I say, you know what, relax.
Take a deep breath. I tell them, like, take a deep breath.
Right. Because that has happened to me, and the first thing that comes to my mind, you mentioned spirituality, is I said, well, God delayed me, because maybe there was an accident waiting for me around the corner. Maybe there was a reason why I needed to be delayed, or I got this flat tire, or I don't, just finding the positive whenever you can.
I think it's the balance, bringing something that brings you back into peace, so then you can have actions to resolve. I also want to point out that we have some products that we have been talking every episode, and there's this sleeping tea.
But you pick it up so that they can see it and kind of hold it close to you. Yeah.
So this is the anti-stress. This is the sleeping tea, because some people have a problem with like staying asleep.
Yeah.
And then the anti-stress tea. The anti-stress tea, when Florence Lefranc is the person who manufactures and formulated she's a medical herbalist. When she sent it to me this in the beginning for me to test, I drink one. And I said to her, this doesn't do anything. And then she said, for the amount of stress you have, you might need to double that. So I did 3 bags. When like my stress level was very high, I did like 3 bags per day for a few days, and it brought me to zen. Like so I really stand behind the anti-stress tea. The sleeping tea is good too, to calm you down.
Yeah.
But the anti-stress has like really powerful. It helps me.
And we talked about that too. There's certain things, practices that we do in our personal lives that bring us to that place of zen. And tea is one of them for me. The warmth of it and the whole act of it, just sitting alone and just eating. It could be with you and I having tea or coffee together. There's something very tranquil about that interaction.
Yeah.
So that's one of them. And by the way, I love all your products. You see over there.
Oh, you try?
Yes, I'm trying everything.
Awesome.
One thing I want to send a challenge out to you as we come to the close of this episode is, we're going to do a recap of everything, but as we come to a close of this episode, is that anytime a stressor enters into your life, stressors automatically associate with negativity, right? Because if it's positive, it wouldn't be something that we would stress over. So anytime a stressor comes into your life, find the parallel to it and positive, and focus on that. It's a mental thing, it's a subconscious thing, it's mind over matter. So in the case of the stressor being your job, like just getting up and going to your work today, The positive attribute or on the parallel is you have a job to go to. Well, many people don't. You have a way of earning income. You're the provider of your family. You're working hard. That's a very positive attribute. So always combat it with something positive.
I like to say, what is this an opportunity for? When something happened, what is this an opportunity for?
Growth and a lesson.
There's always an opportunity in everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to read. Do you have anything else? I want to read my quote for the day.
Yeah, we're going to read your quote for the day, but before we do that, let's just recap. So, stress leads to aging because when you are stressed, inflammation enters the body, cortisol levels shoot up, you lose sleep, right? When you lose, and remember, sleep is so important because it's those cells that are the cleaning of the cells, the whole body cells, that only happen while you sleep. So sleep is important. So you have to start changing the way you respond to stress because you cannot alleviate stress. You don't want to bury stress, right? Meditative practices, deep breathing.
Change frame of mind.
Changing the way that the frame of mind, allowing yourself grace, right? Your spiritual awareness and turning to God or whatever your form of meditation is. For me, it's prayer. And just keep in mind that stressors biologically increase our age and that will continue until you remove the stressor from your life. Okay.
So my quote, and then it's a good idea always to do something relaxing prior to making an important decision in your life. Paulo Coelho. And I will leave with whatever is going on with you right now, ask yourself or ask God or your spiritual being, what is this an opportunity for? And click here to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching us.
Thank you, everybody.